reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hello and welcome. We'll begin by reviewing the draft minutes of our previous meeting, which was held on March 18th, 2024. I make a motion to approve the draft minutes with a member second. Thank you, Patricia. All in favor? Aye. Approved without amendment. We'll review the agenda as posted on the town website. For the regular meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals, Town of Brunswick, April 15th, 2024, we'll begin with 22 Oswego Avenue, seeking an area variance. Will be a public hearing. Followed by Green Street, area variance, a continuation of a public hearing. And then we have New York State Route 7 and Carroll's Grove Road, seeking area variances, also a continuation of a public hearing. And tonight we have two new business applications to consider. The first is 3 Watson Avenue, followed by 302 Carroll's Grove Road. So first item of business on the agenda is our application on 22 Oswego Avenue. I'll ask the applicant to come up and just give us a brief overview of the project. If there's any changes that have been made since last time that we met in March.
No changes. The porch from the 2 feet from each side, or like 1 to 2 feet from each side. Unfortunately, my wife couldn't be here today. And the 6 feet out, plus wind stairs. Just like the plan is
Okay, all right, thank you very much. I'll ask you to sit down and we'll open the public hearing on this application. So the zoning board will open the public hearing and will note that it was published in the Eastwood Press, placed on the town signboard and posted on the town website, and mailed to all owners of adjacent property within 300 feet of the project site. And ask Mr. Gilchrist if you can kind of read that notice of public hearing, please.
Yes, notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Zoning Board of Appeals in the town of Brunswick at 6 p.m. on Monday, April 15, 2024, at the Brunswick Town Hall, 336 Town Office Road, Brunswick, New York, 12180. Concerning the application submitted by Rebecca Delgaizo and Jason Delgaizo for an area variance in connection with the construction of a covered front porch on property located at 22 Oswego Avenue. The application requests an area variance from a front yard setback. Copies of the application are available at the Brunswick Town Hall and are available for public inspection during regular business hours. All interested persons will be heard at the public hearing.
Thank you very much. So the public hearing is open. If there's anyone who'd like to speak for or against the application, you're welcome to do so. Chuck, have there been any written comments?
We've
to the building
received
department?
no written or email
Thank
comments.
you. Are there any questions from the zoning board members? Well, hearing no public comment, I make a motion to close the public hearing portion of this application with a member second. I'll second. Okay, Patricia, thank you. All in favor? Aye. So the public hearing is closed. Zoning board members are prepared to deliberate and act upon the application. We'll begin by reviewing the elements for consideration for the area variance. The zoning board is asked to explain how not an undesirable change will reduce the character of the neighborhood nor detriment to the nearby properties created by granting the area variance.
We're gonna fashion this porch similar to the one that is at their neighbor's house. And so many other homes in that area have these porches, and so there will be no change.
I agree with that, thank you. Then the board is asked to explain why the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance.
So all the lots in that area are small and there's really no room for anything.
Thank you, John. The board is asked to describe whether the requested area variance is substantial. We'll note that it's a front setback in an R9 zoning district on a 0.19 acre lot. What's being proposed is 5 feet, but is required is 30 to 25-foot encroachment, which may seem like a substantial amount. However, the applicant's current precast front steps already occupy that space, that encroachment. So the requested area variance is not substantial. And the board is asked to explain how the proposed area variance will not have an adverse effect on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. I would just add that by the addition of the 6-foot by 18-foot covered front porch to this house, there will not be an adverse effect on the noise, odor, water runoff, for example, in the neighborhood. And then lastly, the board is asked to explain whether the difficulty is self-created, noting, of course, that consideration is relevant, but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of the area variance.
The house is already non-conforming. As you said before, the steps are at the same setback that this porch would be, so it is not self-created.
Thank you. We'll note that this application is a residential application, no minor environmental, none or no minor environmental impact is noted under the Type 2 action, the State Environmental Quality Review Act, so no further determination is required. If there's no further deliberation, we'll consider the balance between the benefit to the applicant as weighed against any detriment to the community at large or the neighborhood in particular to determine to grant the requested area variance.
In my opinion, there would be no detriment, and actually, I think like the applicant is indicating it's, they have the opportunity to spruce up the front of their house, and it is conforming with the rest of the neighbors' approaches that way as well.
Would you make a motion to grant the
Yes,
requested area variance? Put a number second.
I'll say it.
Thanks, John. All in favor? Aye. So your area variance is granted. Kindly continue the work that you're doing with the building department going forward.
Thank you so much.
Rebecca's fine.
My wife couldn't make it, so I figured.
Okay.
Have a nice night, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good night.
We're from, yeah, from, yeah, we're number two.
Okay, our next item of business is the continuation of a public hearing for Green Street. I don't see the applicant here at this time. Here, I have a question of the building department in regards to this application. Perhaps I can address those questions. I also have questions for the applicant. Have to wait on those. See who shows up for tonight's meeting.
Sure.
Chuck, have you heard anything from the applicant?
I have not, I'm going to reach out to him right now.
Okay, thank you.
We have spoken in the past, but not today.
Yeah, okay. So waiting for that confirmation from Chuck with the applicant, I guess I'll just give like a little overview on how I would like to see things go tonight. So it is a continuation of the public hearing. That means that the mic is live in the sense that people would like to come up and comment. That's still welcome to, you're welcome to do that. We also have questions from the zoning board members that we could present tonight. I have questions for the building department that I feel comfortable asking tonight without the presence of the applicant. I also have questions for the applicant that I did not bring up tonight if he's not here. The building department received and distributed to the zoning board members the applicant's response to the public comments that have been made at the two previous meetings. I'm not sure if the public had the opportunity to look at those papers at the building department, but my idea was to go over them one by one. I would read them. I wanted to do that in the presence of the applicant for the benefit. I thought it was a reasonable thing to do for the benefit of the public to hear the responses from the applicant, for the zoning board members to ask and clarify from the responses, and then also for the record, that we would have that in the record. Yeah, so I guess we'll wait that confirmation. Any questions from the zoning board members and how I'd like to lay out what's going to happen?
No, that's, sounds reasonable.
Yeah, okay.
Left him 2 messages.
Okay, all right. So, we also have another public hearing that, I don't know if we could vote to that after this, or? um,
Right, on the posted agenda, it did say that the public hearing for the third item would continue at 6:30.
Okay, so we're gonna have to wait anyway.
May have to, if you have questions directly for the applicant, that would be appropriate, but in terms of making sure that the public hearing remains open at 6:30, so for additional public comments, we could get some work done, certainly with the applicant. And,
Sorry, with the second one or the third?
oh, the third one, that'd be
Yeah, okay,
appropriate.
jump to that.
Yeah. Certainly, it's appropriate to have dialogue with the applicant.
Sure.
Just make sure that the public hearing
Right.
continues and take comment at 6:30 to 6:20.
Okay.
Don't go by that.
Jeremy?
Don't go by that clock.
Okay, right, 6:20. Okay, so that's what we'll do. So we'll allow for the applicant to respond to Chuck's phone calls, we'll give him time to do that. There is another public hearing that's open and ongoing tonight, so we will rearrange our agenda to address the information for New York State Route 7 Carroll's Grove Road, and then we'll come back to Front Street. So let's make that switch.
Are you here for the Noosa public hearing?
No, for Justin House.
I was hopeful.
Or, yeah. So did you read that list, or we read this again?
Right, we won't be here anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Yeah. All right, so we'll take that Hoosick Road, Carroll's Grove Road application before us now. So I'll ask Mr. Justin Haas, want to come on up? If you have some questions you'd like to pose to you, noting that the public hearing is ongoing and open, though it was noticed that it would begin at 6:30. We have about 20 minutes to kind of go over things with you before other open the public hearing. So, yeah. Okay. So if you could kindly review with us the new information that you submitted to the building department and that they handed out to the zoning board members. Let's go over that.
I believe it's just a revised mapping of the site, showing, eliminating part of the side that we don't own, the unshaded area. Adding the snow removal, where it's gonna be placed, the fencing, the gate. More vegetation, show vegetation around the property. This pretty much answers to all the public comments.
Okay, so as we're going to do with the second public hearing, we're going to give the public the benefit of your responses. So if you want to go over them.
This is the engineering firm, so in case
Nice
you have any
to
other
meet you.
questions, the
Thank you for
engineer's
being
here.
here tonight.
And the actual, Butch, the owner of the property is here too, so hopefully we can solve every question you got.
Sounds like a good plan. So if you want to elaborate, I guess then on the landscape. So in the application materials that you submitted, is there a landscaping design?
I believe it shows shrubbery along the front. I don't even have the updated map. with me.
10-foot spacing of trees all along the Route 7 line.
Who is that? Is it, tell me that information?
It's on the new site plan. I just wanted everyone to really understand, the applicant has not purchased the property, and until he knows he could get a variance, he hasn't done more of the specific things, like the SWIP would cost $50,000 for all the details that's included, and that would include a landscaping plan because there would, you know, he would actively be using vegetation to absorb some of the runoff. But this, I think one of the questions in the last hearing had asked, would it be screened from the road? So would there be some, you know, barrier that was more appealing? And then, so he said, of course, we could add trees along the Route 7 line. But as for an official landscaping plan, not yet, but definitely he would have one before the town planning board would review it and potentially approve it.
Right, so as a zoning board, I understand the concerns of the town board and the planning board. So one of the elements for consideration of the zoning board, is whether or not there's an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood.
Okay.
So that's why we're seeking information regards to the landscaping.
Just gave him something to say.
Okay.
I believe the land's already been cleared, so adding the tree screen would be an improvement at this point.
And so we've seen it before where the applicant does want to heavily invest in the property because they don't own it. So it's kind of like a chicken and an egg, right, for the zoning board. So, you know, there's certain considerations that we need to see that in order to make a determination. If we don't see it, you know, it's hard to make that determination. So just to kind of impart to you, you know, why we need the information that we need and how that affects the decisions that we make.
Okay. And also visually, there definitely will be a detention pond. Like, I'm not sure about the exact size yet because the town engineer had said to shrink it somewhat. But along the Route 7 size, that's where the pond will be. So when you're driving by the road, for the most of it on that side, you would see trees and then behind it a pond, which would look attractive.
I think the question came up as to retention versus detention.
It should be detention.
It should be detention, so you're going to be draining from the bottom of the pond.
It will be, and we spoke to the DOT about that, and it's sized, I think, for a 25-year storm, whatever the DEC guidelines were. So then whatever, if there was a storm bigger than that, then it would flow and go into the DOT water system.
Is there any way that letter could be produced for the zoning board?
Can you clarify
The
that?
letter from the DEC outlining
What the sizes should be?
the dimensions of that, right?
Okay, so it'll depend on, like, there'll be a variety of things to use to absorb the water. And so my company is a small company. We're going to outsource it to a company who can do everything to figure out, like, if there was, you know, drop inlets throughout the parking area and an underground water detention, they'll optimize it to shrink the detention pond, and then they'll be able to figure out how much would run off for that storm. So I'm sorry, I don't have that available now, but we did speak to the DOT about it because we know it goes into Route 7. And I mean, the requirements are that for the stormwater pollution prevention plan, that like the runoff has to be managed on site. So it's some combination of best management practices will be used to do that. And depending on them, the detention pond will be bigger or smaller than size. But until that money is invested, I'm not sure.
Right. So depending upon then the size of the detention pond, would that have any implication for the number of units that would be proposed for the site?
Yes, like right now, the detention pond's pretty big. Originally, the applicant had wanted 3 large rectangles, and we had already said, we don't think that'll be feasible, and it'll be a smaller rectangle, you know, for the third building. So yes, it does depend on that.
So so you downscaled from 3 large rectangular storage units to
Like 2 1/3.
2 1/3. Is there any way that would be reduced again, depending upon the work that they do, determining the runoff.
Potentially, I think that there's a lot of different measures, including, like I said, the underground storage. So the applicant will have to consider the various costs of them versus something that's less, would take less of an investment to build, like the surface detention pond, and then through that combination, he would figure out, what he wants, that those number of buildings or something less in a bigger pond. But like I said, the town engineer was opposed. I'm not sure exactly why, but he understood that there's different measures to use, and we had done this as just like the first pass of like, could the water be contained on site? And it could be with a large detention pond. And he said, I don't want it this large. Let's, go back and, add some other things and make it smaller.
Sure. So a question to the applicant, Mr. Haas, so how many storage units are in these proposed rectangles?
I believe 168.
So 168 times 2 times a third.
No,
Oh,
168 total.
Total, okay. So I guess then, is there a cost analysis that needs to be done? So there are 168 storage units, and whether or not you have that at full capacity, depending upon if there's any change to the detention pond. I guess those are the numbers that you have to play with.
Yeah. The only thing possible to lose would be that third building. If not, the project ain't even worth doing.
Right,
Because we already lost 3/4 of the building.
right,
So
right, I see
if
that.
we wind up losing that, it's over.
Right, because that's the direction of the detention pond, it would have to go that way, it would go,
Right.
it would go north-south instead of east-west, if you were
That's
to increase it.
It's the lowest elevation on the
Lowest
property.
Okay.
And there'll be some regrading, to make it'll be sort of a tiered thing to have one building at one level, then it'll drop down. So, with the slope parking lots in between.
Right, have flat areas for the. So another thing that the zoning board members received in the interim was an updated, variance that was requested. So the new requested front variance, where 75 feet is proposed in the business light overlay, is now 42 feet. Required 75 feet, proposes 42. Making that new variance of 33 feet. So that was a change from our previous meeting in March.
Yeah, and that's the one where.
The building wasn't parallel with the property line.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll fix that.
Yes, Route 7.
Hmm.
Sorry. Right.
So it's accurate now. And then there's the opposite of that, there's the other variance area.
We're calling that rear yard.
Rear.
Rear setback. And what's being required is
50.
50, and what's being proposed is 30, and that's unchanged from the March.
So I want to ask about your sign. So I guess I want to ask, it's more Chuck. First of all, I want to know what kind of sign. You said you're putting up a 4x6 sign?
Yeah.
It's 4 feet off the ground?
Yep.
Is that allowed?
It's supposed to be 6 feet off the ground.
But can it be a standalone sign?
Sure.
So it doesn't have to be attached to the building?
No, you're allowed, you're allowed 2 signs he meets the frontage and he meets the setback to be allowed a monument sign.
Oh, because you don't have to count the space where the detention pond is. It's not.
No,
So, I
frontage.
mean, is there a setback for a sign?
Oh, yeah.
So we don't know what.
You're
where-
saying the
I mean, I
physical
see where
location on the
he's
site?
Putting it on, right, on the site. But I see no measurements of how far back from the property.
I didn't know. What is the setback requirement for the sign?
That would be on your property line, because you're gonna make the front setback in the, right away.
Okay.
So I am not seeing where the sign is. Where is the sign? Oh, okay, so that is inside the control of the property line.
Probably. I just thought I would see it in front of the trees. And see where the map is.
So it's gonna be it's supposed to be 6 feet off the ground? And he's
Don't have
asking,
to worry about it there. I thought it was down here. The reason for the 6 foot is so that motors can see underneath it. So
oh,
you're not
okay,
blo-
and
you're
it's
not
not,
blocking.
right,
yeah.
it's not blocking any kind of, okay.
Obviously, a monument sign is not going to be 6 foot in the air. It's going to be on the ground. That's what you're proposing as a monument sign, is that correct?
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So. I thought you were on the other side, on Carroll's Grove roadside. To be honest with you,
I would probably want it on the other side, to be honest with you.
you
I
kind of
didn't
think
see
of
the sign.
where you'd want the sign, where the entrance is,
Right,
you know?
yeah.
So it could be that same thing over on that side. You could put it right over in the other corner as well.
Yeah.
Move that one tree down to the other end.
Okay,
Probably
I'm
what
not
we would-
seeing a tree.
Well, could we
Or
propose
one
that?
dot.
Well, I'm not even seeing a dot. So tell me where your dot.
Move that one down to here, move the sign up to there.
Oh, so you're just moving it the opposite end of the
Yeah.
property.
You kind of want the signage for the business to be near the entrance road.
I didn't even see the sign.
I didn't either. I've been working on, 8.5 by 11 sheets, which I'm glad you provided this.
So you would move the sign down at the other end?
Yeah.
Is there an offset required from the property line though?
No, because you said that you meet your setback
Okay.
with, what'd you say?
With the right of way.
With
The problem is the Route 7 kind of swells up like a big python that just ate a pig. Bad, bad description, but you come out to 75 feet there. That is the roadway. I mean, you put another sign, your sign's gonna be, you're gonna be dumping snow on it in the snow removal area. So you've got to have it close to the road,
Yeah,
and that is on your property. That's,
okay.
Country Storage was the same way when he re-signed down a little farther west here. Well, actually, it runs more south here, but a little farther
So it
south.
goes right here.
But we'll hash all that out in sign application.
Right, I thought that was just a whole nother scenario.
More money and another piece of paper.
Kind of getting back to the element, first element that the zoning board needs to consider, the change in the character of the neighborhood.
Okay.
So without having any design rendering of what is going to be proposed, it's difficult to know that.
I thought that we submitted a perspective, like just this representative perspective along with the materials. Yes.
Right. That was submitted in the first application.
Because I remember seeing something.
Yeah, there should have been.
This? Yes.
Yeah.
There you go. It's a lot better in color.
What is the color
Oh, yeah,
scheme
what's
to
the
it?
color?
Unknown.
what would you prefer?
Something that would go with the characteristic of the neighborhood.
Okay.
I mean, we were looking at the new ones that are tan and black doors, so they're not flashy like red and white like my other place. We've been looking into that scenario.
Mhm.
We still don't have a name for the place, to be honest with you.
Mhm. No, and I understand the dilemma here. The amount that could be invested into this project without having, again, full steam ahead. I understand that. Maybe we could take a break from the zoning board members' questions at this time. We can open it up to the public again, as this is a public hearing.
What's that?
Yeah, for now, thank you. So is there anyone from the public who'd like to come up and speak, comments about this application? The public hearing is still open, and you're welcome to do it, so.
Good evening.
Okay.
I'm Terry Franklin. I own the property behind where this proposed building would be. I went over the questions that were asked at the last meeting, and I haven't heard the answers to all of them yet. Maybe they're coming. Has the lighting been addressed? What kind of lighting? Okay. So has the lighting, has that been addressed in any of the documents that have been submitted? I mean, is there gonna be 24/7 lights or? I don't know the answer to that. I'd like to hear that. Also, the back of the property, what is the setback on that property, which is where our property, that's up against that. Those are my two main questions.
Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Tom Daly, 1356 Route 7. I'd like to know what is going to be done for privacy fencing or whatever between our property and that property. And what is going to be done with the existing drainage that is right on the property line at this point.
Right, could you just I think you did in the previous meeting, could you just kindly describe the existing drainage system right
It's a
now?
French drain across the whole back of the property. And it gets down to our property, makes a right angle, and an open ditch to Route 7. And if that backs up, we're gonna have issues. I don't know if that's gonna go to the detention pond or what.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, as the applicant would like to respond, if you have any immediate answers, factual answers to those questions, give the opportunity to respond to them now if you'd like.
As far as the lighting goes, the units are solar lighting mounted to the building, and they're down facing, so there's no lighting which would protrude into any neighbors or anywhere else, but right in the parking lot to the blacktop.
And they would be on every other bay, and the lighting was answered in the submittal that you have already for this review.
The question of it, why every other day?
Because that makes it ample where you don't have no dark spots.
Okay, there'll be a crossover to where it's not, so.
Right.
But without extra light pollution unnecessarily.
Cost, of course. So how high do they stand?
That's the building. Below the eaves, so it's below the gutters anyway, so nothing will do.
There's a question about the setback. You want to kindly review the rear setback. This was asked by your, abutting rear neighbor.
Yeah. You guys require 50, we're going to 30, just so we can fit the building in there. And pretty much just have a roadway behind it.
Did you propose any screening for that? Any privacy screening for that?
I believe there's a fence going around the property.
There is a fence currently, yes.
It's a chain link fence.
Chain link fence. And we could always do slotted inserts to block it.
And then by your other neighbor, again, you were asked about privacy fencing.
Would be the same if you had to add trees, some treeing every 10 foot, or you can do the inserts on the steel fence, which works well.
If you do a different fence, it would be more
Pardon me?
pleasing to look at. A different type of fence than a chain link. That was between the properties.
Chain link.
Instead of,
Oh, no, they're asking something more attractive.
right,
Yeah,
instead of chain
chain
link.
link, yeah. And then the last question that was asked of you by your neighbors was the existing drainage. If you're familiar with what's being referred to, so it's being described as a French drain that goes between the borders of your property and your neighbor's property into an open ditch. And the concern was if there were to back up, where would the backup water go?
Well, that's an existing drain, it's been there since Butch owned the place, so Butch knows about that drain. He said it's been there since he sold them the property, and actually that's why there's a drain that way. That water would only intrude on my property. I can't add water backwards up the hill to that drain. So as far as me adding water to that drain, it don't make sense. Water don't go uphill.
Was it's collecting all the water from the property
Above.
upslope from it. And, I mean, part of the plan to collect water, would make sure that that one was functional, but yeah, like the water management plan for this property wouldn't add any additional water to it. But it could be gone over to make sure that it was fully functional so that it would keep doing the job that it's been doing.
But that's directing all that water towards our property.
But it won't be a change in how much water.
It won't be a change, no, but my opinion, shouldn't have done that much. I mean, why direct the water towards us? It should have been done differently.
That's Butch is the owner of the property.
Okay, we'll allow him to
And I
address
believe
that.
they had an agreement, so.
Okay.
I'm gonna be bringing the microphone up.
So the property to the rear, there's nothing there, and we were trying to control the water. So we put a French ditch across the back. There was an existing runoff ditch. We ran that into there, along with some property, some ditching that was some water that was gathered from behind Mr. Daly's property. And that all kind of runs, it meanders down through the property. It was to dry out the main area. No more water, just directed to that little ditch. I sold the property to Mr. Daly, a small piece, and I might show him the map, with that existing ditch there. He bought it with that ditch, never had a concern. now he has a concern. So I don't know what you would do different. It was just diverting the water that was coming from the rear up on the hillside where we own that property behind. Dried that property out, ran it into an existing ditch. That's all. Anybody else?
Okay, thank you for your explanation.
I don't even think it's in the property. Yeah, that drainage ditch, the part that goes down to New York 7, it's not even within this property anymore because it was sold
It's right on the line.
right on the line.
There's some on your side and some on our side. It's not a street.
I see, okay.
Rather than not even touch that ditch, we're going below it. So whatever's existing, staying. Okay?
Yes, thank you.
Can I ask a question to the Franklins? Do you have a house on that property?
Not yet.
Okay, so you have no house there. Your property does not border this property. There's a access road in between those. Well, what would be before a paper street, which goes to the residents of the O'Briens.
Right.
The O'Briens access that parcel not using that right of way. They access that parcel, gosh, I guess they have a driveway through someone else's property?
It's access from the driveway that led up to 8 O'Brien Lane. Where,
Quite
Carl
possibly,
O'Brien
but-
used to live.
As this laptop happens to get locked up on me again, so I really can't see down that far.
Right,
Okay, so there's no residents there, and there's a right-of-way buffer
right.
between those two
And
parcels.
That's Carl O'Brien who's here also.
Okay.
I know, originally it was mapped out as Franklin, but we always knew that right of way belonged to Carl O'Brien.
As I was looking at this, and I thought there was a home in the vegetation somewhere. You know, I couldn't see it through the tree cover. Okay, thank you.
So what we could do as a zoning board, it sounds like the public has commented, and the applicant has responded. We could up it again to more public comment. It seems that we might be at the end of the public comment period now. So we could close the public hearing portion of the application and then entertain any questions from the zoning board members at this time and see if there's enough information to go forward and deliberate or to request more information from the applicant. Is there any other way that the zoning board members would like to go at this time?
I think this would fine idea.
All right, so I'll ask again if any of the public would like to comment, any comments on this application. So I would make a motion, hearing no other further public comment, I would make a motion to close the public hearing portion of the application, moving for a second. Thanks, Darrell. All in favor? Aye. The public hearing portion is closed. It's time for more questions from the zoning board members. FTC. So I would see that there have been a few proposals, so that there were questions from the public. The applicant did respond with proposals. Not having that information, I feel a little bit hindered in kind of going forward to make a determination. I know it might seem like a lot, by asking like, what would the fencing look like? What would the landscape design look like? What would the lighting design look like? As compared to what, say, the planning board is requesting, which is the whole water treatment program and plan. But I still think, even though it's lighting, landscaping, and fencing, that there is an importance to that for what we need to consider as a zoning board, and then what the neighbors have to know and be knowledgeable of kind of going forward. So to that end, I would ask the applicant if you could provide more information on a lighting plan, on a landscape plan, and on your fencing design. Are there any other concerns from the zoning board members at this time?
I don't have any concerns. I would just, with the lighting, is, you had made a comment that the lighting is only at 8 feet. It's kind of in the eaves or the soffit, but if there are, there are houses, residents above that, they're looking down on it. So I'd be curious as if there's like turn-off times, what the requirements are to, for when the lights, and how, if there is any lighting that's gonna remain on in the evening, what the lighting would look like. So I would suggest that when you're providing the information regarding the lighting, is to put those details in there. Just, it might answer some questions to some of the residents. And then with the fencing, if you do have residents, again, that are, an 8-foot fence may not be appropriate, or it might not be satisfying to some of the residents. So I would suggest thinking about that too. And again, all these things add costs to you, and you get it, but I think that it's probably going to bring up some questions. So, since you're talking about the lighting and the fencing.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that it would have to be 10 feet or any higher than that. It's just, some information, something that's going to depict what it would look like for the residents.
Well, if you go to neighboring place up the street, there's no fencing, nothing showing, everything's there. I mean, I could show you the ones in the area, I'll go take pictures of them, there's no way, not even a fence around them.
Right.
I mean, neighbor to the left is a junkyard, neighbor to the right, there's woods, there's no neighbor behind it, so.
And this would definitely be an improvement over the junkyard.
So we'd also need information on the buildings, what you're planning on doing as far as like the color of the definite color scheme, to see if it fits in with the character of the neighborhood. And would there be any lighting on the sign?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we look to that side.
We need to know that information, and I don't know, does anybody want a design of the sign? The sign is gonna look like?
Yeah, so the question for the building department then, in this application, are we considering a sign, or would that be a separate application?
Separate application.
Okay. So how the sign is lighted would not be pertinent to this?
As long as it's not getting into the eyes of any drivers on Route 7, it won't be an issue. All of your lighting, per the zoning law, it all has to be down lighting on the buildings. So, as he explained, what they call wall packs, right? You're just gonna install wall packs, which are just downlight. And like I say, the sign's a separate application.
Chuck, is there a requirement on, like, business hours with lighting on the building and not the sign?
The borders residential areas, yes.
Right.
I assume with key entry, you're gonna have a 24-hour operation,
Right.
right? So the lights, the downlighting will stay on.
Okay.
I assume, solar triggered, it'll turn on and off with the,
Yeah, solar in motion.
Well, I think that's good. You can kind of,
Oh, that there's a discrepancy.
well, I think what you're saying is those are basically when the gates open,
Okay.
but for tenants, we can clarify, I think there's what's keyless, like card entry,
Okay.
which I think is a question.
Yeah. My question was regarding, so the building department was assuming that it was open 24 hours. The supplemental information that we received, that was the facility be open from 8 AM to 8 PM?
Correct.
Okay. So how is that different then? So it would be, it's open 24 hours or it's not open?
I assumed it was. I haven't even looked at the business hours.
Okay.
Well, I think in the last meeting, I heard that there would be access, potential access 24 hours. However, the business hours, so to speak, would be for lighting, because I thought that came up the last meeting that we had. That was a concern about the lighting and being, 24 hours or being all night long. So,
No, we're looking to do 8 to 8, 8 AM to 8 PM.
okay, yeah, that's,
The lighting solar turns on half lit at night along the roadway zone inside the property between the buildings. And then if motion is detected, it turns on.
oh, yeah, I remember you saying.
For 30 seconds.
Yeah, I remember you saying something about that.
So that's built right into the
No,
gate?
no, I
No,
installed,
So what I'm saying is that at 8 o'clock at night, or 8:05 at night, somebody comes up to the gate, they can't
can't get in the key.
punch their code in and get in, okay.
Well, those are your operating hours. 8
Mhm.
to 8, then those are the operating
Yeah.
hours, 8 to 8.
Right, so those lights wouldn't be kicking on any higher.
No,
They're half toned throughout the night,
no,
right? Yeah. So there would be no
There'd be no
reason,
motion.
there'd be no reason for them being any lighter. Would the roof be metal?
yes. The entire building is metal, everything.
I got a question for Andy. We don't know the size of the pond. Actually, because we don't know the size of the pond, we don't know the number of units. Is that enough information to go forward with?
You can look at it a couple of ways, okay? One, you should review and act on the application that's in front of you. So they're proposing a certain number of units with the building layout. And if you review that, discuss that, and act on it, just for the sake of discussion, if that variance were approved for that number of units with the building layout, if there would be any change to that, they would need to come back to this board. An amendment.
What about the size of the pond?
So that does give rise to an issue, and you did say that certainly stormwater issues are more site plan, planning board issues. But this board will need to make a determination of environmental significance. It's subject to seeker review. So one of the issues you will need to address is the potential for at least one significant adverse environmental impact. And the board should have adequate information in front of it to make that determination. Clearly, stormwater and drainage is an environmental impact issue. And one option for the board to consider would be getting some
comment directly from the planning board engineer on that issue to assist you in making your secret determination. I'll also note that once the public hearing is closed, as the board knows, you do have up to 62 days in which to make a determination, which timeframe can be extended upon consent of the applicant.
Could I add something?
Certainly.
I have spoken to the town engineer, Wayne, a couple of times, and he believes that it's definitely feasible to build these structures and contain stormwater runoff. And he said it's just a matter of spending all the time and doing all the drafting to get all those details created.
Those folks just left. I just want to say that Anusa has returned my call and he is en route.
So the zoning board has worked with Wayne Bonesteel in the past through other applications and other projects. Mr. Bonesteel understands the secret project and what the zoning board needs in order to move forward. I would feel comfortable requesting his comment for the purposes of the zoning board making a secret determination on this. He can assist with us in any way. I understand that the applicant's engineer has been in communication with the town engineer. I think for our purposes, I would be interested in receiving Mr. Bonesteel's comment in that form. I agree. And then we also need the other information. Fencing and lighting. Right, yes. And the design of the color scheme.
I have a question for Mr. Haas.
Of course, Mr. Haas.
I just have a quick question for you. The question came up about outside storage. I think in the last meeting, was there an answer to that? There wasn't gonna be any outside
No,
storage?
no outside storage,
Okay.
no storing vehicles, no campers, no boats, no nothing.
Okay, thank you.
So then, just to review, the zoning board is looking for about 5 things. So more details about the fencing that's being proposed, the lighting that's being proposed, the screening, of vegetation, the design of the storage units, what they look like, the materials, the colors, and a letter from the town engineering addressing the drainage and the stormwater issue in regards to the seeker.
Do I request that from Wayne, or are you requesting that?
Good question. You can request
Yeah,
that.
the zoning board will request it.
Okay, perfect.
Get a bigger hammer.
Any other questions at this time? Any other questions? Chuck, do you have any questions on how we're going to move forward?
No, I've got written down what's needed.
Does the applicant have any questions for the zoning board this time?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll see you again in May. We meet on the 3rd Monday of every month. And open this.
This.
May 20th.
Is closed. You can put it on whenever you want on your agenda.
May 20th.
May 20th is the next time we meet again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night.
We can pick up on the new businesses and
Sure, we can do that. Good idea. Thank you. Okay, our first new business application is at 3 Watson Avenue, and by Mr. and Mrs. Travis Bradley. Okay, yeah, thank you. So how are you? Welcome.
Good evening, how are you?
Can you kind of give us a little overview of the project that you're proposing and why you're seeking area variance, please?
Looking at a little bit.
Above ground.
Yes, sir.
So with the feet
Setbacks.
setback, so area variance there.
Okay. So it's a front yard setback, is that right?
Well, it's gonna technically go on our side, but I think that's the issue is the front setback. If I'm understanding correctly.
Right. So it will be behind your house, the pool?
You have the picture of.
Do you have a picture?
I have this picture. Is this what you're referring to?
so it is to the left. If you want to be standing on the road and looking.
Yeah, so if our house, if you're facing Watson's Road, we have more land to the side, so like,
Okay.
The side lot.
if you're facing the road to the right side of the house.
Okay.
We had an extra plot of land and we just merged that, we got that line,
Yeah.
taken out, technically, so now it'll be
Is
one.
this where the pool's going?
Correct.
Okay.
This line is erased.
Right, okay, that's the one. So originally, they couldn't put it there because.
Can't have
there
an
was no
accessory
ex-
without a principal.
Without a principal, now they have the principal.
And the front setback does, you don't have, it's a R9, you need a 60-foot front setback, and the lot is only, was it 68 wide? I forget now. Yeah, I believe that was, I forget what the total lot was. So-
Oh, red ones. Less than 80.
I believe it was 79, wasn't it, I believe? But if we centered the pool being 21 feet in diameter and that it put 29 for both the front and rear setback.
That's what's showing on here,
Yeah, that's,
29.
Okay.
So you're looking for 29 when it's supposed to be 70. That's what it is.
should be 60, front setback for an accessory structure in an R9.
Okay, that's what you're supposed to do. Okay.
All right, well, the application looks complete for the purpose of holding a public hearing. So just like you saw before, people will be notified of your project and they'll have the opportunity to speak for or against it at our next meeting in May. We give permission for the zoning board members to come out to your home and to look at the proposed site. That'd be okay? We could,
Done before, so yeah.
okay, all right. And I see a number that ends with 4579 on the application. Should we use that phone number? So sounds good. So we will meet again in May 20th. We'll hold the public hearing. And if there's anything that comes up before then, if you have any questions for us, you're going to direct it to the building department and they'll get that, those questions out to us. So,
6 in the afternoon for the public, or 6 in the evening for public hearing?
yes.
Okay, 6 p.m.
So do you need to wait for someone to come look, right, before we come back in May?
So we'll, right, an interim will come out and,
Okay.
right, but please come back in May, regardless if you see us there or not. Sometimes, just doing a drive-by is enough to assess and evaluate the situation, but, yeah, so let's plan on meeting again on May 20th at 6 o'clock, and we'll go from there.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. If you have any questions, please, call Chuck.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, good night now. Okay, so then comes back to. Okay, we're gonna go back to Green Street. Mr. Ensemble. So just to refresh your memory, the public hearing is open, it's ongoing. So at tonight's meeting, the public will have the opportunity to speak and give their comments. If there are any comments from zoning board members, we'll ask you that time. And then I'll kind of go forward from there. So let's see. I think what we'll do, I appreciate the responses that you, the response that you submitted to the building department, that got it out to the members in regards to the comments that were made by the public at the previous meetings. I was wondering if we could kind of go over that, but in going over that list, I think it might address some of the questions that the public may have. If not, they'll have the opportunity to ask more questions. Okay, I think if we go from there, like I said earlier, I think it hits 3 marks. We'll go over your responses for the benefit of the public. We'll go over the responses so we can clarify any questions from the zoning board members, and we'll go over your responses to get it into the record. Okay, good. So let's begin. So if you feel comfortable there, Sonia, that's fine. I was thinking I'll read your responses and then you can expand upon them, or we can ask you questions about them. So when asked about the construction activity that's going to happen on Green Street, you came up with, I believe it's 8 or 9 different, 9 different points and key measures and how you're going to handle it. The first one was a contractor agreement. You're going to incorporate the following guidelines into the building contractor's contract prior to commencing construction. Straightforward there. 2, lot boundary awareness. Clearly mark the lot boundaries and variances to ensure that all contractors and their equipment stay within the designated area during construction. And I believe existing, you have plastic sheeting. Is it on the left and right?
It's on the front of the property.
It's all there. It's all there.
Okay, we've had a lot of bad news recently, yeah.
Is this silt fence that's up?
Yes.
Oh.
So fence. So I guess I was asking how you would clearly mark the boundaries. Would you be using a silk fence? Would you?
Yes, we have create a fence on both sides of the property, so that we're not going into neighbors.
Certain, right. What materials would be the fencing made of?
So preferably we'll go with something that's closer to the silk fence, but then I think I'll be putting the fence just as there was prior. There was a semi fence that was on the right side of the property.
I'm not getting you at all, News. I'm afraid you're gonna have to stand up there. I'm not picking up anything on the mic at all.
We just gotta.
So, to actually mark off and clearly separate the boundaries, I'll put either wood fence or one of the wire fences, something sturdy to ensure that everything's kept within the construction site.
So do you envision this fence to be temporary during the construction period
Yes.
or permanent?
Temporary, just for construction purposes.
It is common practice to set a fence to start the layers of soil to limit runoff.
And the third thing, supervision and monitoring. Designate a site supervisor responsible for overseeing construction activities and ensuring compliance with agreed upon boundaries. I would like to add to that perhaps at the end of the day, that person, that site supervisor, could be responsible not only for overseeing the activities, ensuring that compliance upon the agreed upon boundaries, but also as a cleanup, kind of do some daily housekeeping. A lot of material, construction material comes in plastic, paper, cardboard, and we spoke about the winds. It has a tendency to fly away off-site. I would make that the responsibility of that person to do daily cleaning at the end of the construction day. That's a suggestion. Number 4, equipment storage. All construction equipment and materials will be stored on the lot, away from neighboring properties and public thoroughfare to minimize disruption to traffic and neighboring properties. To add to that, I was wondering if you ever considered a staging area, having a staging area. So that would be an off-site property where vehicles and equipment could be kept. Knowing the confines of this lot, and knowing the passability of Green Street and its narrowness, see it very difficult to envision contractor trucks, at the site. So like, for example, if you have 4 laborers who are going to put on the roof that day, perhaps at the staging area that you've already established, for example, Freer Park. In the back of Freer Park, there's a playground and there are open parking sites. I don't know how to secure those. I don't know how to get them. But perhaps something like that, or another property, if you own another property in that area could be used to store the contractor's truck. So you have 4 roofers who are going to come and work at your site that day. 4 construction trucks drive from their home to the staging area. They all get into one truck, which drives to Green Street. That's a suggestion. Number 5, traffic management. Implement traffic management measures such as signage and flaggers if necessary to ensure the smooth flow of traffic around the construction site. Number 6, neighbor communication. Maintain open communication with neighboring property owners to address any concerns or issues promptly. Number 7, daily inspections. Conduct daily inspections of the construction site to ensure compliance with agreed upon boundaries and to minimize the risk of encroachment into neighboring properties. Number 8, contractor accountability. Hold contractors accountable for any violations to the lot boundaries or variances with penalties outlined in the contract for non-compliance. And then lastly, number 9, establish emergency response plan. Develop an emergency response plan to address any unforeseen incidences or emergencies that may arise during construction, ensuring the safety of workers and neighboring properties. So that was the applicant's submittal response to the comments that were made by the public. Any of the zoning board members have any comments or questions? in regards to that? I'm going to give the public a chance to ask their questions. Any public members like to speak in regards to the responses by the applicant or any other concerns that have come up in the meantime?
Hi, my name is Tom DeNova. I live in the lot next door, the home next door. One thing you brought up about storing of the equipment, this might be just something for Mr. Musa to think about. Sickaway Creamery lets people store all kinds of things there. Mark Duncan, I don't know if you're familiar, but there's trucks there all the time, which is just around the corner, which would alleviate a lot of trucks and things being on my yard.
Certainly.
And I'm sure for a fee, Mr. Duncan would allow that, but that would be something you could think about, because it's right there. So that would be one thing. The other thing I have, a couple of things, when we cleared out the lot, they were supposed to, I had a storage shed, and no one knew any property boundaries, because it was in the woods for 35 years or longer. And part of my shed was on his property, and we agreed, take it down. It's old, it's been there forever since we moved in. You guys were supposed to take it away. It's still there, piled up in my yard. So, and that's been almost a year. So if you could get somebody with a dumpster or something, I'd appreciate that to be able to get that out of my yard. And the other thing which I always think about with that lot, since I basically was the caretaker of that for forever, was people would throw all kinds of trash in there. And over the years, I shoot out teenagers having beer parties and things when it was woods. And I have actually seen people dumping empty gas, the rest of their gas cans in there. Is there some kind of environmental thing that needs to be done on that? Because I know people have dumped all kinds of things in there over the years, because I've seen them do it. So I don't know if there is a study that needs to be soil tested or whatever, I'm not sure, but that would just be one other thing. I mean, I know do we want the house there? Of course not, nobody does. We've had it nice for all those years, but we know progress is progress, so it's not gonna change. But that would be something, as long as they don't kind of make it, there's one more thing. The big tree that you left, that's right on the edge, that you didn't cut down, well, part of that was on my roof after this last windstorm. So is there any way you can get that tree down, you would think? Because that's making a mess in my house and everything else. That's the one that's always been a problem since the decedent has owned it many, many years ago. But that's becoming an issue, especially with the wind we've had.
Yeah, we can look into that to get back, because there wasn't one problem, the one problem tree that we knocked down, so I took that one down.
Right, that was
That
bad,
yeah, that was
but
bad.
the other one is just, I didn't realize how bad it was now until it's the only tree there now, and that was a big branch on my roof, I had to get up on the roof. I can't get up on roofs anymore.
You should.
So, I mean, that's what we have, the folks that were here before, they live on the other side. And I know that there was an issue with the trucks of the landscapers, that he had a big issue because they tore up his lawn. They did a little bit to my lawn too, but I'm really worried about that. But that was our big concern is, trucks on our property. And I know the people across the street have little children, and they want to make sure it's safe for them. Lady in the back has a retaining wall. She was here before. I don't know why she didn't come tonight, but she's worried about that because it is starting the hillside in the back.
Yes.
It's starting to come apart there right at the property line. So I know she was worried about that, but that's basically what we have.
Yeah.
We're just,
And just to clarify that last comment that you made, the retaining wall of your neighbor, that's on her side behind the white fence, or is that on this property?
it's on, you've seen the lot. Okay, it's on this side of the white fence. There's a hill.
Right,
And it's kind of like,
right, it's that retaining wall in the sense that.
no, it's just like the hill that's
Got it.
eroding away. And what's gonna happen is her white fence, which I know she takes pretty good care of, and she spent a lot of money on it, is gonna wind up coming down. But if something isn't built there to kind of
Well,
keep it up.
whose property is it?
Her
Is it on
name.
her property or is it on his piece?
Well, the hillside is like regular property, it's probably both of them. But her fence is on her property, but the hill, when they cleared out all the trees, they pulled out all the roots that hold the soil and everything else, and now the hill is kind of coming down. And I'm sure that, I know she was worried about that, I thought she would be here tonight.
Because she came to the first one.
Yes, yeah. But that's pretty much what we have as neighbors. And I know there's been issues with that patch of woods forever. The original owner, Mr. DeCitis, he had tried to sell it to us when we had just moved in 38 years ago. And we were all set to buy it. And then there was a problem with the title because there was so many people, family members owned it. So he just said, you want to clear it out, go ahead, do what you want, the kids want to play there. And we did, we've actually cleared the front part and made a playground for the kids. There was a clubhouse in there that some of the local kids had. It was good, but now all the kids are grown up and gone anyway. So. But yeah, I mean, that's just what we have. And I really want to get that shed out. Oh, because they were supposed to take it. They told me they had a dumpster and it's still there. And it still looks kind of horrible.
If I drive over right now, just move it over to.
We'd never be able to move all the stuff first. I mean, if you want to, that's fine, but it's very like heavy sides and if you want to take some time, fine, yeah, just park in our driveway and do your thing wherever you want. But that's basically what we have. I mean, no one really wants a house there, but it is what it is. And we just want it kept so that we can, because there's really no privacy or whatever now with the house there. It's gonna be like right out my bedroom. It's gonna be right there, so, but, it is what it is, so that's what we want, to try and take care of that stuff. And we were worried about the building trucks because they did kind of make a mess the last time. Because it was all woods.
Yeah.
And they must have taken out 20 huge trees.
Right.
So, it's been beneficial in some ways. I don't have to rake leaves anymore. But, yeah, and the folks that were here, they're on the other side and
All right,
they had a lot of issues with the trucks digging up their lawn.
right, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, yeah.
So Chuck, I have a question for the building department. So does the building department have in this application all the information from the applicant regarding the house design plans? So another way of saying that is, are you confident that what is in the application can be and will be built? Well, I guess can be built. Will be is something else.
And stay within those setback lines?
Yes.
One of the questions that came out regarding the fence, and I suggested you could place raised beds up against that. That there would shore up the fence, also create a nice border, and you can have the ability to plant. They would just not have the east sun on whatever they planted, but they would have the rest of the sun during the day.
And you're talking in regards to the back, the rear of the fence?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mr. Masambo, I just have a quick question for you. So in our application packet, and sorry we didn't pick this up sooner, but there, looks like there are two orientations of the house that's being proposed. I just want to clarify for the record, for the benefit of the building department, which orientation the final project would be. So we have this orientation, which is in a drawing rendering where the garage is on the right-hand side. And then I have this outline where the garage is on the left-hand side.
Yes, so the garage should be as in the actual.
Okay. And so disregard the orientation of the hand drawing. Okay, and then another question for the building department. Chuck, in the, this data chart that you distributed to the
Yes.
zoning members, on the top row, under house size, the square footage,
Those were taking off of the county records. That was the most expedient way to do that.
great. And it's been a very helpful graph. I appreciate it. Appreciate you producing this for the zoning board members. Just to clarify, there was some confusion at the last meeting. Could we say that that is the footprint of those buildings? So in particular, on Green Street, 1260 square foot, is that the footprint? So I guess I'm.
That's what it would be, 35 by 36, I believe were the numbers.
Yes, okay,
Yeah.
right. And those other numbers in that column are also square footage, also known as
yes.
footprint?
Yep.
Thank you.
That's what the assessment's there.
Okay, thank you. Because from this, from the knowledge that I was able to glean from this chart was to find out that the proposed project would be smaller in size than the average of the data that was taken from the Green Street neighbors, which I think is significant. It came up in our last meeting, there was a question about a neighbor saying that the proposed house would be bigger than most other houses. But I think using these values, it shows that the parcel is at the same size as average. Let's see, the parcel size, yeah, and square foot, that's the acreage, pardon. And square foot would be below average. And then with the footprint values, again, it would be below average. The percent occupancy for 9,000 feet would be below average. And then for the parcel size, again, it would be below average.
Mhm.
So-
And that's why I broke that out, because I've always had heartache over having setbacks and building sizes to be equal 9,000 square feet, when in most cases, and some of these lots are half that size.
Right. So,
But those properties were built before the zoning laws, right?
Quite possibly.
I mean, has
I
there
know
been
that the-
anything built since they changed it to an R9 requiring 9,000 square feet?
I don't believe there's been any new construction in this area since then.
That's the part that I struggle with, is that there had to be a reason why that area became an R9.
That's
We
the
have
only, that's
We have a
our,
vacant lot that is less than that.
most all of the lots are less.
I know, but that was before the change or the zoning law of 2017 that we use now.
Mhm.
So I just struggle with that because
And
to me,
that's-
there's a reason why that's there. So if there was ever the ability in that area to create new lots, they were going to have to be 9,000 square feet. If any of that property around there, any of that vacant property, say like down by the creamery or anything, those would be 9,000 square feet lots. You wouldn't be able to, or you wouldn't be allowed to create a lot for less than that. You would not be able to build on a lot smaller than that.
Right, yep.
So that's just what I struggle with.
And in this, you know, when you have lots like this, that is why the 2/3 rule is in the zoning.
Right.
I would really like to see an R5. But that's a conversation for
I was
another
about to say,
day.
that might be for another day.
But just as a rule of thumb, if you don't have 0.21 per acre, that's equal to 9,000. So anything under 0.21 is below 9,000 square feet.
Any other questions or concerns? Can someone remind me, did we close the public hearing or is it still open?
No, it's still open.
Okay. So hearing no further public comment, I make a motion to close the public hearing with a number second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Patricia. All in favor? Public hearing portion of this application is closed. And there's time for more deliberation by zoning board members if needed, otherwise determine that the zoning board members can act on the information that they have.
That's correct. I know you went through a number of the responses, and
Right.
if the board is considering any of those for conditions, what I would like to do is have the ability to review those in terms of town enforceability.
Okay.
Okay, and once the conditions attached to a land use approval, it could be viewed as a town responsibility to ensure compliance or to commence enforcement.
Yeah.
And I'd just like to review these for that purpose.
Okay.
Okay.
Excellent. So we will allow the town attorney time to review the key measures that you outlined. As you said, to find out the town's enforceability and responsibility, and whether or not they can be made as conditions to a granting of a variance, if it comes to that. So that means that we would meet again in May, the lovely month of May, May 20th. It would be after our public hearings. So we'll let you know, most likely it'll be 6:45 on May 20th. Thank you for your patience.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much for that.
Yes.
For the confusion, I thought it was next.
No problem. So May 20th, we'll see you then. Any questions or concerns in the meantime? Address it to the building department. Okay, thank you. Good night. All right, and lastly, we have 302 Carrollsboro Road, looking for area variance. Hello, hello.
Hello,
Thanks for hanging in there.
absolutely.
All right, looks like we have 2 area variances, is that it? So let's walk through this. So this is the first time that any of us have seen your wonderful application. So let's walk through this here. So you're gonna put in an accessory structure garage.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay, you had the 75 feet out there too, okay? That's 840s on the district. Okay. All right. So do you want to kind of introduce yourself and give a little overview of your project? We're going to look on and go from there.
All right.
Please, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. My name's Al Tyler. I live at 302 Carrollville Road since 2016. I want to put up a garage to store my stuff. So truck, tractor, things of that nature. I'm unable to do it at the top of the hill behind my house due to the leach field that's there. So I was thinking of putting it in front, and with the brush and the wood line between the bottom of my property and the road, when that's filled in the spring and the summer, you won't really see the building from the road. And it's gonna sit far enough back that you're not gonna be able to see it driving on Carroll Grove, up the driveway. Granted, I'm on a pretty big hill, but it'll be consistent with other detached structures in the neighborhood.
So have you looked at other locations on your property and how come that they are not sufficient?
Well, I did, and due to the grade on the one side, where, like I said, to my right, Andy Ross's house, there's too steep of a grade. And then further back in the front, my well is there, so I can't get there. So this would be the most out-of-way, inconspicuous spot.
It's still close to the driveway.
It's still close to that.
At least in a bad snowstorm, you got a place to park your vehicle and walk
I
up the
know
hill.
how many times I've had to look it up. Am I supposed to walk you through something else, ma'am?
No, so far you're good. Just look up, thank you. So, Chuck, the building part, are we calling this a front setback or a left setback? Front. Okay.
Yes.
So that's 40. Okay, so on page 3 of the application, under the proposed and the values columns,
Third line down should be, replace 198 with 40. Initially, we were talking about at the top of the driveway. Until we found out that the leach field was not going to allow for that, so.
okay.
Under proposed third line down, change 198 to 40, please.
Oh, because this is the leach field. So
Yeah, out there. He was going to remove these two little sheds right here and place it up in there, but.
That was my fault for not catching that, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's quite all right. That's, while we're doing what we're doing, it's all good. Work together as a team here. So I haven't come to the rendering of the, okay, yes, you have your dimensions. So it's a 50 by 30, okay.
30 wide by 50 long.
Okay. And it will be made out of, what materials?
Steel.
Yeah. And would it be on a slab or what, I couldn't, Stone?
Yeah, my vision is to, have it on, at least, above ground, 2-foot foundation. And a poured floor. So the walls are 12 feet high, and then if it's on a 2-foot slab, it'd make it 14, but it's going to still be with the pitch still under the 20.
right.
The depiction isn't really clear, but what they sell in these type of snow zones, which where you were at 50 pounds, a higher pitch, so that looks like it's about a 412, but this,
It's gonna
what
be,
they sell here is 612, so it would be like a 45-degree angle, with the roof height being the mean, they won't go over 20.
All right, well, the application looks complete for the purpose of holding a public hearing, which we'll do at our next meeting on May 20th.
Yes, ma'am.
So 6:15 for that public hearing. We've had a chance to see what some public hearings are like. If you have any questions before then, you can bring it up with the building department. Answer those for you. Do you grant permission to the zoning board members to come out and see the site?
That's just. I used to have a no trespassing sign up there, like it'd be like Jim Doyle, and if you go on Jimmy's property, you go past the no trespassing sign, he has it. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Stop by anytime.
You're not gonna arrest us.
Because you'd be giving yourself more business. That's
Yeah, I don't need any more paperwork. I appreciate it. Stop by anytime, call me, whatever you want. I
Okay.
have it kind of staked out where it's gonna go, and I have seam tape around it to kind of get a little idea of where it would be, so.
That's
stop by
very
anytime.
helpful.
All
Okay,
right.
thank you very much. Have a good
I
night.
appreciate it.
Thanks
Yes,
for
sir.
waiting.
You too. Yep, thank you.
Did you say 6:15?
Yes.
Okay.
3 Watson will be at 6 o'clock.
Pardon me?
3 Watson was at 6.
Yes. Any more new business or someone would like to bring up before we adjourn tonight's meeting?
So I have.
Okay, make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting, November 2nd.
I'll second.
Thanks, Mr. Shaw. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Good night. Did you go to that training? I didn't see it.